Hello, this is Jim Duff with JDE and Associates. We get to help contractors succeed. Today I would like to discuss labor units. Labor units are an interesting topic for me because there are so many different opinions. And like most people that's had a little bit of experience, I have my own opinion. Now I believe my opinion happens to be right, and what I have to back that up is over 40 years in the industry. During those 40 years I have been an estimator for a good number of years, close to 20. And I've also been a project manager, and I have spent a lot of time in the field with the tools. So I think I have a fairly broad understanding. The other thing that I believe makes me a little more accurate, and this is only accurate for the way I estimate and manage a project, is that over the years my father, who at this point has been gone well over 30 years, he had tracked his results for probably 35 years before he passed away. My dad taught me how to track my labor, and so consequently I have continued to track my labor to see which labor units are correct for me. Now, a big problem is, do you understand what's included in a labor unit? An awful lot of contractors and their employees do not. Now again, this is my opinion. I belong to, or I'm in a group of about 12 estimators, and we're all fairly similar as far as experience level. I personally believe there's 11 steps to a labor unit. Others believe there's only 8. Others believe there's 14. There's no one issue or one standard that tells you what's correct for you. Now, before we get into actual what is included in a labor unit, there's a few things that we have to go over. First, let's use 3/4 inch EMT as an example. This is thin wall conduit, comes in 10-foot lengths. What would be a reasonable labor unit to use for this type of conduit? Before you can put a labor unit against an item, you really need to know, where's it going to be installed? Is it 8 foot or below from the floor, or is it 20 foot above the ceiling, or 20 foot above the floor? Can you use a scissor lift to install it, or will you need to install it using an extension ladder? Is the ground concrete or is it rough dirt? All of these make a difference. Is it being installed in a single-story building, or is it in a 20-story building, maybe a 50-story building? There's major issues that you have to consider. All of these items and more must be known before you can apply a labor unit to an item correctly. What's the skill level of your field staff? What about your office staff? If your office or your project manager doesn't manage a job aggressively, you're going to have some issues. Okay? Will you have adequate labor for this project along with all your other projects that your firm is installing at the same time? Now, every item has its own labor unit. The conduit has a labor unit, a connector has a labor unit, a coupling has a labor unit, as does the straps, boxes, the wire that will be pulled in it. It sounds real intimidating, doesn't it? It's really not that big of a deal. Let's use 2.6 hours per 100 feet, which on face value means that you have a little over a quarter of an hour put per 10-foot section. Okay. Mind you, that's 2.6 hours per 100, so that's 10 sections. That's something we've got to understand. That doesn't seem too hard, does it? It really and truly doesn't. This is where a lot of contractors and their employees go wrong. In a labor unit, the first thing you have to do is you've got to order the material. After you order the material, you get to receive it. Now, once you receive it, a small portion of it is going to be delivered wrong, so you're going to have to return it. Now, when I started in the trade, this wasn't real prevalent. As the days go further, it seems to become more prevalent and more prevalent, so it happens more. Well, if you had to return it, now you get to receive it a second time when it's delivered, hopefully correct. After that, you get to move it to storage. Now, I've put move it to storage, the fifth item, and store it right next to one another. That's not a typo. It's just a play on words. Because when you get the material, you're going to have to take it off the delivery truck and take it to wherever your laydown area, wherever the area that you're storing your material until you need it. Now, on most jobs, your laydown area or your storage area, it's only going to be there for a matter of a week or two, and then you're going to have to move it to another laydown area. That's why the second store it is in there. Finally, you get to lay out the work. This is great. Okay, we finally get to do something constructive, because if you don't lay out the work properly, yeah, you're going to have a problem with quality control. Item number 8. Oh my God, we finally get to install it. This is what a lot of people think that entire quarter of an hour is for. That's not quite correct most of the time. Item number 9 is quality control. It's a lot easier to make sure that this is installed properly before a ceiling goes in or the drywall gets installed. So I suggest that we do some quality control. It's real embarrassing when you put a switch in and it's on the hinge side of the door. I don't think your customers are going to like that too well. That could be a failure of the layout, or it could be the failure of the installation. It's still cheaper to fix before it's covered up. Item number 10, is to complete a set of as-built drawings. Now, a lot of contractors don't do as-builts. I think that's a mistake. I do as-builts when I'm building a house. Now, most of the houses that I've built have been private residence for myself, but I did get into big custom houses, more like mansions. I probably did 60 to 75 of them. The electrical on most of these were in the $300,000 range, and that did not include as much as a porcelain keyless fixture. All fixtures were extras. The last item for me is you better do some cleanup. There's nothing I hate worse than working in a dirty area, and it's a huge safety issue. Now, when my dad was tracking his labor, he used to tell me that the install was 55% of that, in this case 2.6 hours. So basically, you cut that 2.6 in half, and now you have 1.3 hours. That makes it a lot tougher to install, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Now, since I've started tracking, I really do believe it's a 50-50 mix. I believe 50% is the installation and 50% takes care of the other 10 items. Now, here's a little bit of an issue. The estimating system that I use primarily, it has 6 labor units. And I can't be 100% sure, but I believe these labor units were installed by the company that supplied the estimating system. I take that back. That's not true, because you can see that my column 1 is at 2.25 hours per 100. My column 2 is 2.6. My column 3 is 5. Now, do you notice that the NECA box is checked? That's telling me, at least in this system, that column 3 in my estimating system is representative of NECA column 1. And you can see I have columns 4, 5, and 6. The reason I know that these were my labor units and not the manufacturer's is when you get this particular estimating system, the bottom 3, 4, 5, and 6 are left blank. So I have gone in there and adjusted these. Now, that brings up a really big topic, because when you get most computer estimating systems out of the box, they will have their labor units installed. This has to be adjusted for your expertise. Now, there are 3 labor unit books that I'm going to talk about right now. You might want to write this down because I don't have it written down. There's the NECA Labor Manual, and that's basically the union. And I believe that the NECA Labor Unit is what derives virtually all the other labor units. It's a derivative of the NECA labor units. But in the areas that I have worked, there are very few times that I can bid using even NECA 1 on a competitive job and be competitive. They're just too high. And that's even being a union contractor. I can't remember many projects that I could bid with NECA level 1, 2, or 3. 2 and 3 was quite a bit higher than NECA 1 because, again, they were just too high. Now, there's 2 other books, and one is the DeWalt company. Now, the DeWalt company, you've probably had a battery drill that was a DeWalt. They make great battery drills. They're not my favorite anymore, but for many years they absolutely were. They build great tools. Labor unit books, yeah, not so much. I'm not too thrilled with them. Personally, I don't think there's an electrician alive that can match what the DeWalt book is indicating. But it's still out there. There is another book, and you can get this on a trial basis right off the internet, and it's called Craftsman Labor Units. And the Craftsman Labor Unit book, you can download it for a month and you can get full access off of the system. It's actually got a little estimating system that I personally don't like, but the labor units by and large make sense to me, with the exception of feeders. And the feeders, I'm beginning to wonder if they're wanting you to manufacture the wire, they're so high. But with the exception of feeders, it kind of works for what labor units that I use, as long as I consider where I'm putting it in. If it's just a commercial building, 2 to 3 stories, they seem to work good for me. So labor units, there's quite a bit to them. I hope that this has been beneficial to you, and I hope it's given you something to think about. Maybe you'll want to listen to it more than once if you can stand listening to it more than once. If there is ever anything that I can do to benefit you, it's not all about money with me. Now, I will tell you, a big part of it is about money for me, but I'm willing to take the first step, and I do this in two different ways. The first is that I put out a weekly newsletter. All you have to do is go to my website, www.jde-associates.com. If you forget that, just type in Google electrical estimating training, and near the top of the first page you'll generally see my website. Again, www.jde-associates.com. You can open up my main page. You will see right on the top left hand side below my address, my contact information, a box where you can request to get into our newsletter. All you have to do is fill out your contact information, ask to be included in our newsletters, and I will get you subscribed. That's all it takes. Fill out the form and send it to me through our website. You can get out anytime you want. It's no big deal to me. You're going to get tips on estimating, project management, and supervisor tips. Those are the three things that we feel we're comfortable with teaching. Now, that's the first thing that we offer for free. The second is that we offer a one-time per contractor webinar. This is a webinar which is through your computer, and basically you have to have a computer with high-speed internet access, wired high-speed internet access, and a telephone. Again, you go onto my website, go onto the contact page, and just request it. I'm going to send you a system test so that the system can check to see if you have the correct version of Adobe, Java, and Flash. Adobe is the company that made PDFs. It's a great company. It really and truly is. It isn't junk software. But you have to have a certain version of both Adobe, Flash, and Java, and if you don't, then the webinar won't work properly. But you can download the program for free right from the test site, and then once you do that, then whenever we schedule the webinar, I will go ahead and send you an invitation so you can log on, and then I'll call you. I have to call you because my hearing is just absolutely trash, so I can't use speakerphones. Those are the two things that I offer for free. When you request the webinar, ask 2 or 3 different items. If we have expertise in those 2 or 3 items, those are the items that we're going to talk about in your webinar. We are not going to talk about classes, or it's not a sales call. We're actually going to try to help you. Anyhow, if that works for you, great. Again, the webinar or the website, www.jde-associates.com. If you want to email me, my email is jim@jde-associates.com. And if you really want to call me, you can. Phone number is 970-231-5423. I take phone calls from 7 in the morning Pacific until about 8 o'clock at night Pacific. But the truth of it is, if you call me, there's a very good likelihood I'm going to be working with another contractor or otherwise occupied. So you're probably going to have to leave a message. So the website or email is probably the best way to get in contact with me. If I can't get in touch with you that day, I certainly will get in touch with you the next business day. I hope this was beneficial to you. I hope you have as much fun listening to it as I have had making it. Thanks for your time. Bye.